A rich man had a steward. A steward is one who is an administrator of someone else's goods. And so a steward lives in the house of the master, eats the food of the master, but what he's working with, whether it's oil or whatever, it belongs to the master. And so he's working with the goods of the master. And so the master is right, it's fair, it's just that the master asks for something for his work, for what he's working with his goods. And we can also understand where a steward, after a while, after years, would kind of get accustomed to living in the house, working with the goods, that he might start to think that somehow this is my stuff, and that he might, instead of working for the master, would kind of use things for himself. And so a rich man had a steward who was reported to him for squandering his property. And so he summoned him and said, "What is this I hear about you? Is it true that you're squandering my property? Is it true that you're not using things well for my benefit? Prepare a full account of your stewardship. Give me an account of everything that you've done. Give me a record of what you've done with my goods, with my property, because you can no longer be my steward." And so the master has the right. You will no longer be living in this house. You'll no longer be using these goods. You'll no longer be working with this stuff. And so it is with us. We're stewards. We're working with the master's goods. The house is not yours. Your children are not yours. The goods are not yours. And the proof is for the same reason, that tomorrow it can be taken away. You're no longer living in this house. You're no longer working with these goods. And we can also live like this steward, kind of get accustomed. And instead of working for the master, instead of recognizing everything belongs to the master, we can be confused and think that it's ours, it's mine, it belongs to me. I'm working for myself. But the time will come. Well, the stewardship will be taken away. We'll no longer be stewards. We come into this world with nothing, we leave with nothing, and so we're stewards for a time, and then it'll be taken away. And we'll have to give an account. The same question: what is this that I've heard about you? Prepare an account. What have you done with my goods? How have you used everything that I've given to you? And so this steward knows he can't defend himself. He can't say, "Well, every Sabbath I gave you 2% of my income." No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so he thinks to himself, what can I do? So what can I do so I can have a place when this is taken away from me? And so it's a good question. And so he does something that seems strange. He calls his master's debtors one by one. To the first he said, "How much do you owe my master?" He replied, 100 measures of olive oil. He said, "Here's your promissory note. Sit down quickly, write one for 50. Then to another the steward said, "And how much do you owe?" He replied, 100 cores of wheat. The steward said to him, "Here's your promissory note. Write one for 80. What seems really strange is that the master commended him for acting prudently. Why would the master commend him for acting in this way? But so it is. If what I do with the master's good is if I'm generous to others, if I'm generous to his debtors, if I'm generous to the poor, if I don't tithe 10%, but I tithe 20%, 50%, God will say the same thing. Well done. Well done. You've acted prudently. And so he says, I tell you, make friends for yourselves with dishonest wealth, so that when it fails, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. And so we can use money to win friends, being generous, giving, helping, supporting, so that when the time comes and our stewardship is taken away from us, so when the time comes and we have to give an account of everything that we've done, we'll have friends in heaven that will welcome us into eternal dwellings because we've used well the master's goods. For the person who is trustworthy in very small matters. What are very small matters? Very small matters are material goods, money, things that we use for a time, things that pass away, things that are temporary. If we're trustworthy in very small matters, so if we're generous, we use well little things like money, then we're trustworthy also in great ones. And so God sees, that one is using well my goods. He's very generous. He's using it well. I can trust him with things that are actually important. I can trust him with things that are eternal. I can trust him with spiritual goods, things that really matter, because I know he's going to use them well, because he's using the little things well. The person who's dishonest in very small matters is also dishonest in great ones. And so if I'm using material things in a very selfish, as if it was mine, for myself, for my own pleasure, how can God give us what's really important? Why would God give us spiritual gifts, spiritual blessings, things that last into eternity, if we're not using well the little things that he's put into our possession? If therefore you are not trustworthy with dishonest wealth, who will trust you with true wealth? If you are not trustworthy with what belongs to another, do you see? What belongs to another? It doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. It belongs to God. Or if you have two coats, one belongs to the poor person. Who will give you what's truly yours, which is eternal life? No servant can serve two masters. He will either hate one and love the other, or be devoted to one and despise the other. And so it's a good question. Do I despise money? It's not important. It's not what gives me life. It's not what gives me meaning. It's not where I give security. It's not what I'm anxious, concerned, and worried about. You cannot serve both God and mammon. So can't I love money and love God? Jesus is saying no. But if I don't look for life, if I don't look for security, don't I have to be worried about money? If I'm not worried about money, well then who will take care of me? Who will provide for me? Will I just be abandoned? No, God. God will take care of you. God will provide for you. God will give you everything as he already has, as he has all your life. And so, really, the decision's ours. But money can't give me eternal life. Money can't give me the love that I'm looking for. Money can't give me meaning. Money can't satisfy me. God can give me the love that I'm looking for. God can give meaning to my life. God can give me the security I'm looking for. God can give me the fulfillment that I'm looking for. God can give me eternal life. And so it makes a lot more sense to serve God, to work for God, to think about God, to be anxious, concerned about God. And so this gospel simply comes as an immense help, so that when the stewardship is taken away from us, as it will, we won't be shocked or surprised. And when we have to give an account of what we've done with the master's goods, we won't be shocked or surprised. And hopefully, we will have used the master's goods well to win friends so that we can be welcomed into eternal dwellings. And so we have this opportunity to decide who we want to serve, which master we want to live for. And so we ask God to give us the grace, to give us the wisdom to live for God, recognizing that everything we have comes from Him. And His desire is that we enter into the eternal dwellings in heaven.